10 flowering plants for dry gardens. Agapanthus, the African lily, is thought of as a moist soil plant, but once established, they are tough enough to withstand dry spells without stressing. Agapanthus foliage grows in thick clumps of long, strappy leaves. The flowers are borne atop leafless stalks about a foot high. They are round clusters of trumpet-shaped blossoms that can last for up to 8 weeks in ideal conditions. Agapanthus can be overwintered as houseplants or stored in a cold basement either in their pots or as a tender bulb. Gaillardia is a flashy daisy, too flashy for some gardeners, but also one of the most cheerful flowers you can plant. These flowers love well-drained soil, so drought means little to them. Keep them in full sun or they become floppy from being top-heavy. The traditional Gaillardia is rust-colored. Gaillardia burgundy will appeal to gardeners who do not allow yellow or orange into their flower beds. Butterflies love it too. The partial shade under a tree helps keep dead nettle performing in dry heat. It makes a pretty little ground cover. The silvery white streak down the center of its leaves brings some light to the shade. Just be sure to plant it where you won't mind it spreading out, which this plant is wont to do. It blooms in late spring to early summer in U.S. hardiness zones 4 through 9. Heliopsis is one of those flowers that is so self-sufficient, it gets no respect. Even the common name, false sunflower, implies it is a poor relative of a more prized plant. This native of the dry prairie holds its golden flowers on stiff stems that can climb 3 to 6 feet. You can cut them back in the spring to create a bushier plant or just cut back the plant in the front of a large clump to extend the long blooming period even longer. There are single types that look rather like yellow daisies and fluffy doubles. Phlomis may sound like a disease, but it is actually an engaging plant with square stems, sage-like leaves and little balls of flowers atop each pair of leaves, all along the flower stalk. The flowers eventually turn into attractive seed capsules, prolonging this odd plant's interest. Jerusalem sage makes its biggest impact when massed. It blooms repeatedly throughout the summer. The old-fashioned fringed flowers of Dianthus are also known as pinks. It belongs to a huge genus and new varieties and colors are introduced every year. Although Dianthus often have pink-colored flowers, the name pinks is actually descriptive of the fringed or pinked edges of the flowers. Although often thought of as a spring bloomer, do not think of Dianthus as delicate. Dianthus is so tough, it is hard to kill. It blooms in the spring with repeat flowering, if it is cut back after blooming. Platycodon gets upstaged by the somewhat similar-looking bellflowers Campanula. Campanulas do not burst open or tolerant dry spells as well as Platycodon. Platycodon has the bonus of being very low maintenance. Kids love the way they puff up and pop open, but use caution showing a child how to press on the sides of flower buds to get them to pop open, or you will have a lot of squashed flowers. The Veronicas are a large and varied group. Choose your plants right, and there will always be a Veronica in bloom. They are also problem-free and tolerant of almost any type of weather. The flowers are long and spiky, like a salvia but more refined and with less coarse foliage. There are low-growing Veronicas that make great Edgars, Veronicas that clump and grow 2 to 3 feet tall and make excellent border plants, and some that will take over. Thankfully, it is the better-behaved Veronicas that are being sold these days. Thyme is such a versatile plant that you should not confine it to the herb garden. Thyme is another of the Mediterranean herbs that simply thrives on dry heat. That is why it is so popular for growing between pavers. Thyme is rarely thought of like a flower, but most varieties do flower profusely and are quite lovely. A happy planting of thyme will quickly spread and form a carpet. You can even walk on it. Just be careful of the bees it attracts while in bloom. It is in bloom from late spring to early summer and thrives in zones 3 through 9. Gaura flowers float on air and have names like whirling butterflies and sparkle white. This is another dainty plant that can actually handle heat better than cold temperatures, although it does bloom more profusely with some watering. Even so, drought and poor soil will not deter it. The flowers are held high above the minimal foliage and keep forming and blooming all summer. Deadheading the entire spent flower stalk will revive it during prolonged dry spells. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more interesting videos. And please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm.